If you want to be a part of the 1%, what product can you make out of your gift set where you can charge someone $4,000 and do that 4 times a month and just lock them in, get them on a retainer? Most people don't think they have the expertise or the time or the ability to do something like that, when I think it's fairly simple. He's the captain of free game. Most people don't actually listen to him. They just want to hear it. They want to be soothed because they're like, I'm in this situation, I don't know what to do, and they want to be told what to do, but most people don't actually make the action to do it. And then there's a very small percentage of those people that actually take that, do it, and do really well. And it's like, I want to close at least that gap. What I really want to say is this. My pastor taught me this when he released his last book. I was like, hey man, aren't you scared? He's like, yeah, but no. And I go, can you tell me like why and how? And he goes, Ron, the outcome is up to God. The input is on me. Most people are terrible at resting, at Sabbath, because they know deep in their heart they never did what they were supposed to do in the time that they were allotted to do that one thing. So now you feel anxious while you're resting because you squandered your time. But God calls me to be a good steward of my time. He calls me to be a good steward of my hands. And I don't want to be called wicked because of my lack of wisdom in stewarding my time and then going, oh, I can rest. I can't. And that's a part of my input. If I lack on my input, of course, I'm going to feel weird about the output. But if I know I did what I should have done, and I'm not saying you got to do it perfect. Do it, you know what you can. God called everything he made in Genesis good. He didn't call it perfect. He didn't even say it was great. He said it was good. If I can get to good, God can take it to great.
I love what you said because I think it's so tempting as a creative or as a creator, as an entrepreneur, to make decisions based on what you think is going to perform well, rather than saying, I have something to say. I have something that I care about. I feel like I have been given gifts, and I'm going to leverage that gift to ideally bless people and make things that I'm proud of.
And then, my favorite cartoon is Naruto, and the whole show is based on discipleship. But then, what was I going to say? Oh, I did it in Tulsa. I literally just trained like 6 people, and now they're doing creative all over the world. Like for me to have a group of people online, by the way, move to Tulsa into my apartment, basically. We spend a year and a half together every day. And then like one person is doing social at TC, another person is doing social media at Darius Daniels Church, and another one is doing social for like record labels and Indie Tribe. He just was with Tasha Cobbs. And I'm like, why didn't you text? I want to be there. Like, lock me in, and I'm like, discipleship really is possible. Like, digital discipleship is really possible. And I think the church is scared of it, to be honest. And because it involves more accountability than it does anything else. And no one's got the time. I don't want to talk to you every day. That's what you should be doing. I'm talking too much.
That's why we're on the podcast. By the way, we're already on.
I figured.
Yeah,
I figured it was locked in. I figured it was locked in.
I have to say it now because there's been a few times because I prefer to just start by the conversation's already flowing. But there's been a couple of times where someone's like, wait, we've been recording?
I got a little bit of a situational awareness.
Yeah, you've been here before.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, this is crazy. So, I think that I think digital discipleship is something that we should, this is going to be so counter, this conversation, I believe, is going to be counter church cultural, because every time I go somewhere, they're like, we don't really want to focus online. We don't want to do, we don't think that discipleship is something that we could do online. And I'm like, I don't think that that's true at all. I think churches should focus on having 1 to 2 church services or 3, depending on your capacity, and everything else should be focused online.
And ideally, online brings people to an in-person relationship. Yes. And I think what a lot of humans don't understand is that, well, I guess I would say followers of Jesus, because I think most humans are now engaged online. It doesn't have to be either or. I think it's been really popularized in Christian culture, at least in the way that we were brought up, in this kind of mainstream evangelical Christianity in the United States of America, that don't forsake the gathering. It can't only happen online. Hey, be careful with kind of the way you're verbalizing. Is this a campus? Is this not a campus? Things like that. But if you simply look at the way people are interacting and getting relationships, I don't know what the stats are, but more people than not are now finding their spouse online.
That started in the 90s.
Exactly.
My dad and my stepmom met online.
Are you serious?
Yes.
What was it, eHarmony?
I have no idea. I didn't ask all those details, but when my dad said he met my stepmom online, I was like, interesting. And I was either 4 or 6, so it was either 1999 or 2001.
Right.
That's a long time ago. And like, what do you say when you meet someone online? I slid in their DMs. Although everyone is like against it, it's a real reality.
Right.
Online, we can't escape it, and it's only going to grow. It's only going to get better. If we don't take the time to be intentional, to actually steward it and take care of it, then we're going to lose. Like, and I don't want to lose this garden the same way that Adam lost his garden. Like, if digital is my garden to tend, then I will do it. You know?
Yeah. I want to circle back to what you were saying about digital discipleship, because I feel like, at least for me, discipleship can be an overused word that is kind of Christianese. When you're talking about that, are you saying you're kind of helping someone hone their craft while also pointing them towards Jesus?
Yes, 100%. So I'm trading my life for your time, right? And let's see, how do I explain that in a different way? I think discipleship is this fair trade. So back in the day, right, a kid, probably 13 or 14, would find a rabbi and then be like, yo, I'm just going to follow you. I'm going to rock with you. I'm going to collect the dust off of your steps and go from there, right? Like, you became like the rabbi you spent time with. And every time I've ever invested my life into someone, parts of me, parts of who I am, parts of my gifting also transfers to them. I think this is so spiritual, and I hate doing this. I hate it. But like, the anointing flows from the top down, right? The mantle is transferred from the leader to the person that they're leading. And the same exact way that it transferred from Elijah to Elisha.
Bro, absolutely. It's even true in culture. For people who don't follow Jesus,
Yeah.
they call it aura.
Yeah.
You know, call it swag.
But like,
if you follow somebody that has that, you learn from
you're
them.
going to be like them. Think about like even the transfer, which no one talks about this often, between Kanye and Virgil Abloh. Like, there's a level of, I don't know if I can call it mentorship, but they spent a lot of time together. And Virgil very much so benefited Kanye in his entire career,
right?
And also vice versa. Like, Virgil got significantly more influence, but Kanye got significantly more drippy. Like, there was a level of, I'm giving you my gift, and there was a fair trade.
That's iron sharpens iron,
And
right there.
Iron sharpens iron. And it's like, it's kind of hard to really name that example because I don't have them in my brain at this current moment, but you can easily tell, oh, that person was taught by them, or this person was influenced by this person. And it's the same exact thing. If I'm giving you my time, like, you're going to be like me. And hopefully it's the good things, but the sad reality is the bad things too. Like, if I'm late to everything and you hanging out with me, you're going to be late to everything too. So there's that. But yeah.
I feel like the concept of you stepping into what's next in your career and vocation, us Christians would say calling or purpose, feels very much in line with mine.
Hey, we locked in. We're in this together.
I don't know about you, but sometimes it honestly feels like I'll wake up in the morning and I am blessed beyond measure.
Yeah.
I look at what life has offered me, and I believe it's all come from Jesus. And I'm like, wow, I have this, I have that, and I have this going for me. Obviously, we're in a little bit different stages. I have 3 babies and 1 on the way.
Oh, Lord.
Let's
you
go.
You gotta start in 5
I know.
in your house.
I know, bro.
Wow.
It's crazy.
That's incredible, though.
Thank you, man.
Yeah, of course.
And I look at the business and I look at things I'm doing. I feel so excited. And I'm like, man, I've done so much. But then there's those days
where it's stressful. Like,
how am I going to make it?
Dude, I mean, and transition is hard. I'm going to be transparent. The last, maybe since like the end of Q4 of last year, I finished like everything I was doing towards the end of November. Then I just sat at home for like a month. It was the longest I've been home, probably in a year and a half.
In New York?
I was in Tulsa.
Okay.
And I was like, what am I going to do with my life? Where am I going to live? What is this going to look like? I don't have anything set up for the next 2-3 months. Like, I'm going to be broke if I don't do this. And there's a reality that oh, if I don't actually put in work, if I don't actually do things with my time, if I lollygag, if I get lazy, if I procrastinate, there are consequences to that in comparison to having a job. Although I don't get the freedom or the XYZ, there's dependability. I know in 2 weeks I'm gonna get that little check, and it's not a lot, but it's enough.
Yeah.
And but if I don't work, if I don't do anything, if I don't post on Instagram to a degree, people aren't gonna interact. And this is something that I am learning psychologically. If I don't see you, I'm gonna forget you. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I just mean it as in, like, if you're not present online, if you're not being social on social media, people are gonna forget. And it's not that they forget you. They're just so involved in their life that they're so used to seeing you that if I don't see you, I can't think to myself, oh, I have to turn back. It's the same exact concept that in elementary school. Because I saw you every day in elementary school, we were best friends.
Right.
But now I haven't seen Timothy since I was in 5th grade. Shout out Tim. I heard he's doing great things. I think he's like running for something in New York City. Shout out Timothy.
Chalamet. Make it all quiet.
That would be insane.
Yeah, he went to some New York art schools.
I wish that was Tim.
Me too.
But yeah, like, set it and forget it. Like, if I don't see you online over a course of time, I'm gonna forget unless something sparks. I'm like, oh, I haven't seen you in a couple of weeks, haven't seen you in a couple of months. Where you been at? So, and that's my encouragement. Just post it. Just put it out there, even if it sucks, even if it doesn't make sense, even if it's not a part of your brand, even if it's not in your niche. Just post. It'll make a difference, not because of how much people are going to see it, but because people are going to be present, and they can't be present if you're not present. So.
Bro, I feel like the recency bias is so true, and you kind of mentioned it. Like, we've now lived enough life to have gone through so many different groups of friends.
Yes.
In different iterations of our career. And it's fun for me to now have you on a podcast. I couldn't have imagined when we were playing ping pong when you were in high school.
Gosh.
And I'm like fresh into youth ministry, basically
goodness.
Still a college student. And we're
That's
just like
crazy.
Messing around in Vegas.
In my
going
brain,
to the strip with a bunch of
you're
like
a genius.
PKs.
I was like, oh, he's the best. He's the coolest dude I've ever met. Because I was a kid. And so seeing you every couple of months come down to my church, I was like, oh, Wendell's going to be here. Like, we're going to have the time. I had the time of my life. But yeah, that's so insane.
Bro, just going to Raising Cane's late at night,
Yes.
causing a ruckus with a bunch
Yes.
of 18-year-olds and 22-year-olds. No alcohol involved,
None.
a lot of sugar-free Red Bulls.
Yes,
Too many
100%.
chicken strips.
And like tons of awkward jokes and like
Oh, yeah.
just figuring out how to be a kid. It was a good time. And I never thought of it as you also figuring out how to be an adult. I just thought it from my perspective of like, I'm supposed to be at church and Jesus is cool right now. So, yeah.
Bro, I love it. I think I really admire the way you've lived your life, kind of watching you grow. You mentioned it right when I think you first came in, or maybe when we sat down, the influence that has kind of come on you. And I just want to commend you. I'm really, just as a friend, not that I've arrived or that I have some, chair to stand on overlooking your life, but as a friend, I'm really proud of what you built, bro. Sticking with Jesus and honing your craft and the content you made. What did you post today in response to
that movie?
Yeah, the King David show.
Oh, yeah.
Bro, getting me so
I was
good.
like so
and the
pumped.
comments were going off.
It
bro.
was hilarious.
So
Someone
good.
was like, how much did they pay you for this? I was like, you're not the target audience. Stop. Don't even get into that.
Matt, we
But-
got to throw it up on the YouTube channel. If you're on Spotify, go over to YouTube and watch it. But
Yeah. I'm really pumped. I think like it's one of the first shows that I've ever seen where people really put in the work. It looks good. It looks well done. The acting is good so far.
Yeah.
I'm pumped to see what it's going to be like. It comes out literally tonight. But it was an ad. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to say it. It was an ad. They were like, hey, if you do this, we'll give you money. And I said, cool. Can I do it however I want to do it? And they were like, do whatever you want. And I was like, I would personally enjoy watching this if someone made that.
Right.
So, yeah.
Bro, I love that thought. I had a friend recently as I started to make radio happen and start to put a podcast together. And he said, the one thing you need to do is when you're making content, think, would I watch this later?
100%.
Would I watch this
100%.
later? When did you learn that?
I've always been like that.
Okay.
Like, I feel like I go to things and I'm like, I wouldn't I don't want to participate in that, or maybe it's the church leader in me. You ever go to church and you watch church and you're just like, oh man, they didn't hit that riff, or like they could have did this, or this transition could have looked like this, or why didn't they say that? That has always been in my brain, probably since being in church full time. And so now when I watch content, actually it's how I think of all content. Every piece of content I see online, right? I think to myself, how can I make this? I'm not comparing. I'm not saying, oh, they did this or they did that really well. It's, oh, that was incredible. How can I filter that through my own niche? How can I filter that through me, my life, and what it is that I'm doing? And how I say it is like this. I'm no longer a content consumer. I'm a content contributor. So now that everything that I consume is actually funneled through an opportunity for me to contribute. So it doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't matter what trend it is. It doesn't matter what's happening in life or what's happening in culture. I can filter what I'm seeing through my life and make content about it. And it's like this infinite creativity hack that I have, because everything is an opportunity for me to make something.
So would you say that a lot of the content you're putting on Instagram right now is you being inspired by something someone else did, and you're like, hey, this is how I would do it my way, and
100%.
not by comparison, but
100%.
you kind of exploring your creative endeavor based on your interpretation of the way it makes sense for you?
1000%. So I have a video that I just posted last Sunday, right? I've wanted to do it since I saw the Super Bowl. Once I saw Kendrick doing the
Bro, that's gone off, yeah.
Right. And then the next day, everyone started posting it. And I was like, cool. And then you realize everyone's posting it in their own niche. So they're posting it in the context of hanging out with your friends. They're posting it in the context of getting a new whatever. It doesn't matter what it is. This works for absolutely everything. Me with my friends riding motorcycles. Dun, 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 dun. It would go crazy because that's a niche. I'm speaking to a specific group of people. Then I thought to myself, man, I should do this while I'm going to church. Then I was like, well, I don't have my friends with me while I'm going to church, so that kind of doesn't work. So I'm just going to record anyways and just give it a go. By the time I finished recording, I was like, I'm going to go take a nap. So I posted it after I took a nap. Like, I just was like, me on the way to take a nap. And
Wait, that's what you said?
literally, the caption on that video specifically is me on the way to take a nap. But who takes it? Like, don't you take a nap every Sunday after church? Like,
If you can.
Like, I ain't got no kids. I'm sorry. You know what I'm saying? But just about everybody is trying to take a nap after church. So it's relatable. It's in my niche. I'm speaking specifically to Christians because I mentioned church, and I'm utilizing a trend that I know is working well in other niches. All I had to do was think of it through what it is that I do, and boom. Something that I thought was going to get maybe 10,000 views has 150,000.
For real?
Yeah.
How many shares did it get, you think?
Well over 1,000.
Bro,
Pretty
that's
sure.
incredible.
Yeah. And that's actually a really good metric to know what's going to do well and what's not going to do well. Shares.
Really?
Shares and saves are actually really important. So you can have a post that isn't doing well, right? But if it's got a good couple hundred shares and a couple hundred saves, by that time in 24 to 48 hours, it actually might quadruple because it just takes time for people to see something. And it's going to live on a story for 24 hours. It's going to live in a DM. And how many times do you get someone send you a DM and you're like, I'm not going to watch that yet. You watch it in 3 days later and you're like, hey man, my bad. Love you though. And then you watch all the stuff. And then, shares and saves are super important. And it can really determine how well a video does over time rather than just in a moment.
Bro, that's so accurate. I think even the collaboration we did, obviously we've now done it twice coming up for the webinar. I think by the time this airs, the webinar will have already happened. So if you missed it, go back and watch it. Get the replay audience. Let's go. But I think that has, well, I know for a fact, it has more shares and saves than we've ever had.
Really?
And it's not even close.
Dude,
it's like for Divine Persuasion Studios account, that is, I think, maybe 100x.
That's
anything
insane.
You've done before. At least maybe 25x.
Shout out Omar too. He's got a lot of pull. You know what I'm saying? Like Omar out here making content for real.
Yeah.
But yeah, like it was incredible, and it inspired me to make another post. So I did a carousel post, I don't know, a week ago at this point, and the carousel was also inspired by something else. And then I just made it my own. But the carousel has me teaching people how to make their Bible look like mine, right? And the podcast that I listen to while I read my Bible to make sure that it looks that way. again,
What do you mean by make your Bible look a certain way?
So
I mean, the way you highlight and write.
yeah, the way I
inside of it?
highlight, why I highlight things, what I write in my my margins. So I have a journaling Bible, and so
What
I have
translation do you read?
ESV. I've been reading ESV since I got saved, which is crazy.
real?
But it has margins on the sides, so I just write notes. And that actually, this is a part of another mentorship thing that I'm doing. So that Bible that I'm writing through right now, I'm going to give that to someone I'm mentoring. And when I date someone and I decide to marry them, I'm not going to marry them until I finish that Bible. I'm going to write notes in that Bible for that specific person and give that to them
Bro,
when I get married. So it's like, hey, I've been praying for you every day while I read my Bible, and I now have a gift to you that's going to help us in our life.
Are you dating her right now?
No. So the thing is, I got to get a new Bible when I start dating the girl. So hopefully, but I probably won't actually get the Bible until we officially start dating, and I won't give her the Bible until we get married.
Are we close to that human?
Or
Or is that for off the pod?
I don't know. I've gone on dates and I've been hanging out with some really cool people. And I'm like, okay, is this a person that I want to be with forever? Or I mean, it's a little hard to make that decision, but it's is it someone that I want to pursue marriage with?
Yeah.
Do we want to get there? And it's too early to tell, so I don't actually know. But there is this one girl I've had a crush on for a long time, and I'm like, okay, but that's another story for another time. Yeah.
Oh, bro, I love asking those kinds of questions.
It's fun. I have so many stories.
Well, do you want to share any of them? If you don't, we can just jump right over that subject.
No, dude, I think it's helpful.
Okay.
So in my dating experience, right, last year I dated someone. She's incredible. I think she's honestly one of the coolest people I've ever met. And she's gorgeous. She's a legitimate model. I was like, you know what, God? I don't deserve this. There's no way. How is this happening? I'm like, I don't even really got riz like that for real. But she was like, yo, really want to be together, da da da. And I'm like, I really want to be together, okay. And she loves the Lord, but she's just hood enough. I was like, you know what? I rocks with that, But
this is the greatest description of who you should date.
Exactly. You know what I'm saying? Sanctified, and I don't know what the other S word is, but you know what I'm saying? Lock in. And so we were dating for a while, but then I noticed something. Both of our lives got worse. And I was like, if the person I'm supposed to be marrying, right, I find favor with, and there's multiplication that happens, it really seems like internally and externally there's actually division because of our unity. And I was like, hey, I think it's more wise that we stop dating. Not to say that I hate you or whatever, or this is this and no. It's just, hey, maybe if you are the person that are supposed to be in my life, I'm supposed to be in your life, wouldn't I make it greater in most other aspects? Hey, let's just take time to make sure that we're good individually. And it's a concept of wholeness that I really want to write a book about it. I want to write a book on the concept of wholeness before marriage, right? Which is, there's so much there, but I'm going to start and finish here. The Bible says that the two shall become one, right? And the only way that math works is if 1 times 1 equals 1, because God is not into addition when it comes to your person. He's into multiplication. So it's 1 times 1. But a lot of people are looking for someone to complete them. So it's half of me and half of you, when that's not how the marriage covenant works. So, and 0.5 times 0.5 is actually 0.25. You following me?
Yeah.
The math.
I know enough about math to follow you there.
Are you following me? And the thing is, it's I'm on a journey of becoming one with God, right? And hopefully my wife will also be on a journey of becoming one, so that when we finally come together and multiply in our life and our marriage, we also end up fulfilling the call that God has for marriage, which is to be one.
That's deep.
Yeah. It's like a whole thing. I've been thinking about it for 10 years. Yeah.
I love it, bro. Well, whoever finds you is going to be lucky. Let's get it.
Hey, man, I'm going to be lucky. You know what I'm saying? Praise God. I've been waiting for you. Okay, hurry up. Okay, I need that tracking number.
Let's go. Right. I want to go back to what you were saying about the Bible.
Yeah.
You're saying you take notes in the column, and then you're going to take what you've learned about the Bible. You already put it in a carousel, but come back to what you were saying about training other people to read the Bible in the way that you do it. Are you actively doing that right now?
No, it was just an informational post.
Okay.
So, and that's another form of content. It's taking information and making it honestly like creative and fun. And sometimes that's as simple as using a screenshot, and putting words on a screen. So I basically I think it was like a 15 picture carousel where I showed you what my Bible looks like. And I said, your Bible can look like this. And here are the resources that I use to do so. So I put 4 podcasts that I listen to on rotation.
What were those?
So it's the Bible department. Manny Arango has my fault, OG. Dr. Manny Arango is a genius.
He's a good dude.
About a year and some change ago, he sat me down and taught me how to read my Bible. And he said, hey, Ron, a lot of people are reading the Bible and thinking that they're putting themselves in it, when the Bible is actually written to specific people, specific groups of people, and specific nations. You have to put yourself into the world of the Bible, extract the principles out of it, and then apply those principles to your life. And I don't know what it was about that conversation, but I was like, what? And we ended up talking about a couple stories, and it completely changed how I read the Bible. He's got a daily podcast, a daily YouTube called The Bible Department. They're going through the entire Bible. We ended up doing that last year because I was a part of his team helping him record it last year. And then there is, the Bema podcast with Marty Solomon. I just love listening. I just love, they just be yapping, and I'm like, I'm tapped in. Another one is called The Bible Recap with Tara Lee Coble. She's the best. She's been doing this for years, and she's gone through the Bible a couple times. And there's one more. I can't remember the name of it at this current moment. Oh, The Bible Project. The Bible Project they're OGs. I don't know who's giving them money, but God bless them. Keep them paid, okay? Whatever you got to do what you're doing, the Bible, you know what I'm talking about. Keep going, okay? God loves you, okay? Keep God in your life. And so I utilize those to give me a lot of context, so I can actually understand who Jesus is talking to, what the references are, what this actually means, where these places are. And then I also highlight a certain way, and that kind of helps me. So, yeah.
That's dope. We were talking a moment ago, I think when you first walked in, about you starting, would you call it coaching?
Yeah, I think so. I think it would be called coaching or mentoring.
And you might use something like school for it, and we're talking about potentially finding a way to do it together. Describe to me a little bit more on how you would kind of outline that for someone if they were to jump on with you.
So, do you mean what would actually happen inside of it?
Yeah.
Or, okay, great. I love free game. I'm about free game, but there at some point needs to be a paid wall, okay?
Yeah.
I need to get these bills paid. I live in New York City, okay? Rent is atrocious.
Where in New York are you at right now?
So I'm currently in Brooklyn.
Okay.
And so, literally my family's lived in Park Slope, so we're all just kind of there.
Your family's in New York?
Yeah, I was born and raised in New York City.
Oh my gosh. When did you move to Vegas then?
I was 16, so a year before I met you.
Whoa.
Yeah.
What part of New York were you raised in?
Kind of all over, but Park Slope is where the family house is. And I lived in the Bronx for a little bit. I don't claim that. And then I lived in Bed-Stuy.
I don't claim that.
I don't claim that. I love you, New York, but the Bronx, that's crazy. And so for a long time, I lived in Bed-Stuy. So have you ever seen Everybody Hates Chris?
Yeah.
I lived on that street.
No way.
Yeah. That was where I grew up. I was 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 there.
That's dope.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. He would come to our street, and everyone's like, I would be like, it's Chris Rock. And they're like, it's Chris Rock. I was like, okay, why do you know Chris Rock? And they're like, he used to live here, and he comes here every once in a while. It was crazy. Crazy story, but New York City, mentorship, right? So essentially, imagine I just have coffee with you, coffee and a little pastry, maybe a matcha and a croissant. You know what I'm saying? We lock in for about an hour and 15, and I just tell you, I give you free game. Hey, these are the 5 things I think you should be posting this week. Mm-hmm. Then I actually creatively pour into you. So I talk to you about what I'm understanding creatively from the Bible, or I tell you about something from my life, or I help you understand a concept creatively so that you can actually do this in your life. I teach you how to take photos. I teach you how to utilize a camera, whatever it might be. There's an infinite amount of things in my brain that I could actually teach. And you're not a philosopher. You just need to talk for 20, 30 minutes max, throw a Q&A in there, and then a time for connection. That's an easy hour, right? Mm-hmm. doing that every week and spending time with you, all you got to do is you get a little bit of matcha, you get a little bit of a croissant, and I give you my expertise and you give me your time. Fantastic.
And ideally, you would do that on a video call with a group.
A video call with a group. The goal is to have 1,000 students. If I can get 1,000 students on a call every week, imagine how effective that would be in the creative world. Imagine how effective that would be in the Christian world if we had it. Dude, it's a small group. Dang it, it's a small group. That's exactly what that is. It's like, hey, because this is actually my expertise and this is my life, it just happens to be a small group where we're all locked in. There's a small fee, but like you get to be in my inner circle. You know how many people asked me this week alone? Someone was like, hey, do you know a kids pastor, a student pastor, a creative director, social media manager? This week, 4 people have asked me. And I'm like, I kind of know.
Because they want to hire one?
Because they want to hire one.
They trust your
And they trust me. And if I can train people to do that and they sit in a group and I go, hey, someone asked me about this. Anyone down to move to Boston this year in their life? What does that look like for you? Anyone want to move to Ohio? Hey, I have a church in Florida looking for this. Hey, I got 1,000 people that I'm physically investing in. Pick any of them. I know, I trust that they're good because I'm spending time with them.
If you had 1,000, and I believe you can do it, you have that ability, honestly. I'm excited to cheer you on while you do it. And ideally, we could find a way to partner. But there's a whole other conversation for another day.
Yeah.
If you had 1,000, how would you break that down into calls a week?
So it's really, I want to give people access. And so kind of like a professor. So there's office hours. So like maybe 2 times a week, there's office hours. Most people don't take advantage of that. I never took advantage. I went to college. I never did office hours. I don't even remember my professors' names. So there's people that 80% of people aren't actually going to take advantage of the information that you give them. And that sucks. Then only out of the 20%, 1% of those 20 are actually going to probably succeed in what it is that you've given them. But like, if I can make
Where are you getting those numbers from?
It's a little bit of, I don't know, maybe it's because I don't know.
No, I trust your intuition. I'm more just curious.
Gary Vee probably. Like,
he would know.
Yeah, he would.
He probably got like 45 reels.
Saved.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was a really big inspiration in the beginning of all this for me. I just found Gary Vee. I locked in. I bought all of his books at once and just read them.
How many books did he write?
I want to say he's got over 10 at this point.
Wow.
At that point, I bought like 4 or 5. But I realized that most people, when you give away the information, because he's free, he's the captain of free game. Mm-hmm. Most people don't actually listen to him. They just want to hear it. They want to be soothed because they're like, I'm in this situation. I don't know what to do. And they want to be told what to do. But most people don't actually make the action to do it. And then there's a very small percentage of those people that actually take that, do it, and do really well. And it's like, I want to close at least that gap. Hey, look, if you want to be a part of the 1%, which is just making what, $165,000 a year? Okay. What is it? What can you do to make, I don't know, $16,000 a month, which is just 4 clients at like 4, 8, 12, 16, 4 clients at $4,000. What product can you make out of your gift set where you can charge someone $4,000 and do that 4 times a month and just lock them in, get them on a retainer? And most people don't think they have the expertise or the time or the ability to do something like that, when I think it's fairly simple. Like, hey, I'll do your social media and your ads for $4,000 a month, and then you give me the money to run the ads. As long as you can manage it, you'll be all right. Most people only post once a day. That's 4 posts a day, a month, and you can schedule it.
Mm-hmm. Do you schedule inside Instagram now?
I don't schedule at all, actually.
Because I feel like the algorithm now is at a point where if you use a third-party app, it nerfs.
It gets weird.
Like crazy.
It gets really weird. The only one I trust is repurpose.io.
I haven't seen that one. What does it accomplish?
So repurpose.io is really cool because what it does is you can take what's already being posted and schedule it on another platform, and just
okay.
But then it also works for really anything. I can take let's just say we do this podcast and we get 15 clips from it, which is incredible. That never happens. I can put the Dropbox link with all the clips, right? Put it on repurpose and then say, I want this on TikTok. I want this on Instagram. I want this on Facebook. And I want this on YouTube Shorts. Mm-hmm. You can just click a button.
And it'll upload to all of them?
And it'll schedule all of them. And it won't post them all at the same time. It posts them at different times within a 2-hour time period. So it doesn't feel like you're spamming. You can do the hashtags. You can do the titling. You can do the description. And just about everything from that one platform. Then you can take written content and turn it into threads, into Twitter. And I'm like, why are we not talking about this? Like, this is such a phenomenal tool that helps. And I think I'm using it maybe 4% of its fullest capacity.
Yeah. Are you using it to schedule Instagram posts or no?
Yeah. I'm creative director for a church in Florida called TC3. Okay. Shout out TC3. And we just started this month, and the plan is to take all their content in a week. It's called syndication, right? I take Sunday, I break it down into to threads, carousels, and then also videos, and I just schedule all those out. If I can do that every Monday after a Sunday, I don't really have to do that much. I just have to.
Go ahead.
That's it.
And then repurpose.io will actually post it for you.
Yes.
But haven't you seen how Instagram, they've made their algorithm so lock and key now? If you use a third-party app to post on Instagram, doesn't it make it so it doesn't perform as well?
I think so. I want to say yes, but at the same time, like, I don't really care about performance. I've had to let that die. And sometimes it's hard. There's definitely moments where I look at something and I go, take the likes off, bro. Just don't let nobody see. Only 4 people like this, okay? But
yeah,
it's that is not something you deal with on Instagram. That's something you deal with between you and God. Why am I feeling weird about 56 people liking something that I did? I did it. I liked it. I enjoyed it. I agreed with it. I confirmed it. Then that's good enough for me. And like, even the post about the show House of David, it didn't do incredible. That's okay. That's not on me. I did what I thought was great. And it was something that I had to fight probably when I was about 18. And still a daily battle, but it's not super hard where it's like, oh, this didn't do great. Bro, I don't care. My goal is to be consistent. I never said how much had to be in the cup. I just got to pour. And as long as it's coming from a place of overflow, then I super don't care because it doesn't affect me. Like, I'm full and you're gleaning off of what I thought of to make in 15 minutes on my way home from church.
Bro, I feel like on a personal level, that is such a good reminder. And I think anyone who's been in career, I think it's interesting now I'll say it a million times on this podcast, but we've known each other for so long now.
Yeah.
We've had enough different changes and growth periods and painful moments, just career.
Yeah.
And as you look at Instagram and YouTube, now both of us making content, producing content, putting it online, it's so easy to dive into performance.
Yes.
And let's be honest, what you're doing surpasses as far as the amount of content, amount of eyeballs. So I'm not going to say we're on the same level, but as it pertains to just making content, putting it online, posting on Instagram, posting on YouTube, I love what you said because I think it's so tempting as a creative or as a creator, as an entrepreneur, to make decisions based on what you think is going to perform well, rather than saying, I have something to say. I have something that I care about. I feel like I have been given gifts, and I'm going to leverage that gift to ideally bless people and make things that I'm proud of.
Yes.
And I think for myself, when I was finally able to say, for instance, starting this podcast, it took me so long. Dude. It took me so long because I was like, I don't know what I'm going to say, like kind of getting uncomfortable. And I remember when I first jumped on with Matt and I'm like, okay, bro, I really want to do these in person, but we're going to start online. And I'm a little bit embarrassed we're going to start online. And I just feel like it's another COVID podcast and everybody and their mom has one and, you know, talking heads with AirPods and whatever. But I had to just get over myself.
Yes.
And I had to basically say, if people watch it and they love it, great. But I genuinely feel like I can't avoid it anymore.
Right.
And the only way I was able to start was kind of removing myself from how it will be received and deciding just to give something
1,000%.
to the world. And
that's like,
I want to say thank you to you because you've been
wow.
doing it for longer than I have. Putting yourself out there online.
Wow.
And it took me a long time to come around, like watching homies like you and Omar and others. I'm like, okay, I genuinely feel like I have something to say. I genuinely feel like I have something to give. And I just want to be proud of what I put out. And whatever it does to potentially bless people, or ideally not, but I know it will annoy people, I'm just thankful I made it because I feel like I'm supposed to. I feel like I can't avoid making something and putting it out. So I just want to say thank you because you've always inspired me in that way.
Wow, that's insane because I've wanted to do a podcast for now 2 years. I've never done it. And I'm like, all right, Ron, lock in, twin, you know, like, and I just haven't done it. And this year, I literally have to do it because I realize the economy of social media is changing. I think YouTube is a place to be. But what I really want to say is this. My pastor taught me this when he released his last book. I was like, hey, man, aren't you scared? He's like, yeah, but no. And I go, can you tell me like why and how? And he goes, Ron, the outcome is up to God. The input is on me. And if I know that I'm not slacking off, I didn't cut any corners, if I know I did this to my best ability, if I know I'm doing this well rested, that's why a lot of people can't rest, because they know that they didn't actually do the work that they were supposed to do in the time that they were supposed to do it.
Can you say that one more time? That blessed me.
Most people are terrible at resting, at Sabbath, because they know deep in their heart they never did what they were supposed to do in the time that they were allotted to do that one thing. So now you feel anxious while you're resting because you squandered your time. But God calls me to be a good steward of my time. He calls me to be a good steward of my hands. And I don't want to be called wicked because of my lack of wisdom in stewarding my time and then going, I can rest. I can't. And that's a part of my input. If I lack on my input, of course, I'm going to feel weird about the output. But if I know I did what I should have done, and I'm not saying you got to do it perfect. Do what you know what you can. God called everything he made in Genesis good. He didn't call it perfect. He didn't even say it was great. He said it was good. If I can get to good, God can take it to great. But that's the distance between good and great is Sabbath. Whew. Oof.
Bro.
And that's what I'm trying to have on these calls. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like that's the type of conversation I'm trying to have. Because I think if I can teach people about these things that have been instilled in me from my time, from mentorship, from trial and error, from failing, from crying, from staying up all night. There was a time I was making 25 videos a night on Sunday.
My God.
I would be up at 4 crying. Like, yo, I'm exhausted.
Why would you make so many?
It's just what was needed. It's just what was, I mean, in order for me really to like shine in my job, I was like, I might as well just lock in. But then, you know, I got a team and I had someone helping me with Facebook videos and someone helping me with like TikTok videos and someone helping me with, and then I would do Instagram, and it made the night go a lot faster. And I would go to bed at 2. Then I realized I didn't need that. But like, yeah, it makes a big difference. But now I'm so glad I stretched my capacity like that because I know what I can do and I know what I can't do. And that is what I firmly believe humility is. I firmly believe that humility is not a confidence problem. It's actually I know what I can't do. And I'm very aware of what God is telling me that I can do. That gives me the confidence to walk into a room and say, yes, I can do that. The same way David said, yes, I can take care of Goliath. He knew what he could do, and he knew what he couldn't do. Would I rather face Goliath or a lion? I'm going to tell you every single time, freaking Goliath. You know, like, I'd rather face a bear or Goliath. I'm telling you, ain't nobody scarier than a grizzly bear running at your face. Oh, my God, absolutely. There's no possible way. Even, you know, like, they tell you, like, certain bears, you got to, other ones, you got to, like, I don't know what to do. I'm dead. You know what I'm saying? Like, Goliath, every time. I'd rather fist fight Goliath than fight a bear.
I've actually never thought about it that way, but that is so true. That is so true. I would way rather fight a giant that's a human being than a grizzly bear or a lion.
I don't know what the girls was on when they was telling me, if you see a man or a bear in the woods, you choose the bear. I don't know. Like, hey, I'm so sorry. Like, that's actually scary. But in this case in point, 100%, I would fight Goliath 10 times.
Oh, yeah.
10 times.
Bro,
He can't.
He had
I
to
hit
have
him in the shins.
David had to have so much confidence. I never even thought about it from this perspective. That's one of my favorite stories of all time. But walking up to a giant, he's like, yo, you're just a big human. On top of the fact that he's nasty with the slingshot,
Yeah,
he knew what he was doing.
nasty.
And there's no way Goliath would have known this kid is that accurate.
That's facts.
But if you killed a grizzly bear, you ever watched The Revenant?
Yes.
Bro
got mauled.
Yeah, I want nothing to do with this.
Nothing
to do with this. Or you ever watch that show on Netflix, Alone? Where people, they like drop these survival experts into the middle of nowhere and they vlog the whole thing and they're just alone.
That's my worst
And they're all
nightmare.
saying, to your point, like, what do you say to the bear? But you're supposed to kind of project confidence and they'll be like, hey, bear, no bear. Like, I'm good.
I'm good.
Maybe I'll try to survive in the wilderness, but when a bear shows up, I'm pushing the button, like, come get me.
Right. The button will be emergency.
I'm not going Katniss Everdeen like some of these people making bows. I'm not just shooting my grizzly bear gun. Like, I'm good, bro.
I'm good.
I'll go camping, but if a bear comes, I'm getting in the car.
I'm cooked.
Yes.
I'm from New York
Bro,
City.
I kid you not. When I'm a youth pastor, I think it was my last year ever doing a youth camp as a youth pastor. My wife was pregnant, and just
don't tell me there's a bear.
So she's due. Hold up. She's due in August, and this is June or July. So
Okay.
she's like real showing pregnant. She's there, right?
It's the final quarter.
And mutual friend Mark Francie had come to speak. We're at the youth camp. It's the last night. The session's over. We're going to drive on Saturday night to go back down to where the church is so he can speak on Sunday morning. And so my wife and I, her being pregnant, we're going to leave. We're going to take Mark, and someone's driving with us.
Yeah.
And they had always kind of warned about bears. That, hey, we have bears around here. This is the wilderness.
It's called Big Bear.
Yeah. Most of them aren't really going to harm you. These are brown bears. They're not grizzlies. They're not black bears. So they're kind of bigger, because black bears are the smallest ones, right? It's whatever. There's the grizzlies, like the crazy. Okay.
It's all crazy to me. I just want to let it be made known.
But I don't know if it's brown bears. Does anybody know? Is it brown bear or black bear that's the smaller one? Black bear is the smaller one. Okay, I got you. Thank you,
You're
George.
saying it like they're all not dangerous. You know what I'm saying?
George Coltrane, soon to be on the radio.
You come in contact with the brown bear, it's a wrap. Yeah, it's a different situation.
Okay, so George knows. If you couldn't hear it on the mic, George Coltrane, soon to be on the radio, just let us know. Black bear is the smallest, then brown bear. He said if you come in contact with one, it's over. It's a wrap. And then there's grizzly. So here we are, all right? We are somewhere probably Big Bear-ish in Southern California. And we had kind of heard about a few bears. They typically come out at night. They're not really trying to interact with humans. They just want a free meal. So all the youth students are down the hill playing some sort of crazy night game, with glow sticks, whatever. We come up to the car, and it's right next to the cafeteria, and the cafeteria has a massive dumpster. So in front of me is probably 25 yards to the dumpster, and the cafeteria is about kind of 15 feet to the left there, and then there's trees, and we're just in a parking lot. And as we roll up, I kind of hear this, and I'm kind of looking around. I'm the first one up to the parking lot.
First?
Mark and Amy and a couple people were behind me, and then I round the corner enough to see this mass digging into the dumpster with the dumpster open.
I would have started praying in
And
tongues.
bro, I've never been to a zoo where I have felt in any way like I was close to harm, So that's my only experience with a bear is at a zoo. And, there's the gates and everything, and they're usually, I don't know if they drug them at the San Diego Zoo or not, but that's kind of that's my only reference, that and Animal Planet or Planet Earth or whatever. So this is my only time ever seeing a large brown bear. And at first, it does look big, but it's kind of digging in, and it's on all fours. And then the rest of the group comes up behind me, and I'm not kidding you, bro. This thing goes up on its hind legs and puts its paws up. And I don't know if I would call it fear or adrenaline, but my whole body started like
tingling?
Yes. And just spidey senses. Friendly Neighborhood Creative. I got you right
I
here.
would have absolutely, there would have been fecal matter in my pants. There's no way.
So, bro, this bear stands up. I got my pregnant wife behind me, and the car is in front of us. So we got the bear 25 yards. We got the car about, somewhere between, 10 and maybe 12 yards over here to the left. And my only thing
That's a first down.
Yeah. One first down, baby.
God.
Just a quick one. And so I'm trying to stay between the bear and my wife. I'm telling everyone, get in the car. And one guy who's with us is trying to act like it's low key. I'm like, this ain't low key, bro. This isn't like your buddy that you can talk to and be like, hey, man, settle down. So I'm like, let's get in the car. Let's get in the car.
Way too many Disney
but, bro,
movies.
it didn't take any steps towards us. But, no thank you. If I'm David, to your point, never thought of it this way. If you already killed a grizzly bear and a lion, my God, I'll take a giant any day.
Bro's tapped in.
Bro, I was scared. That thing was, I don't know how big they get, but it felt like it was at least 12 feet high. Massive.
Hey, the black in me. I would have picked my wife up and ran with her in my arms. Because there's no way. Them kids would have died.
That's what I'm saying. I just had to make sure, like, she goes to the car this way, and I'm between her and the bear.
No, that's why they didn't make
like,
me
if
a
someone's
youth
gonna
pastor.
die.
No, that makes sense. I get it now. I get it. I understand. They didn't make me a youth pastor because I would have let them kids get ate by a bear, and that's all right. I fight like a coyote or like not, like I don't know. Look at it.
Yeah, well, a coyote's
bear?
not trying to mess with a human.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You see,
Maybe you got like a little baby dog to come try.
I pick my
come
battles
around that,
for
but-
real. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because they would have fired me. You left the kids, bro. Hey man, she's my responsibility. Them kids, they got parents. I don't know, man.
No, but we called the people who kind of oversee the camp. We're like, hey, there's a brown bear over there. Like, oh yeah, that's normal.
Huh?
Like, hey, we should have all the kids come inside. They're like, no, they're not gonna attack.
Can I ask you a very real question? How many black people was in this ministry?
Probably a pretty decent amount.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
You probably met some of them.
I definitely
back in the
did.
day.
No,
like
you're right.
Ben Sean, definitely would have been at that camp. I would guess probably Cameron Ellis. I mean, not that I need to name every
we don't
one of
gotta
them, but
say
I think
names.
there was
a
well, I
nice
say
little-
that because those are like my homies. They were in my small group.
Yeah. Shout
but
out small group.
It's the best time.
Yeah.
You're gonna have a small group of 1,000. Let's get it.
That would be insane.
But yeah, why do you ask?
Because the black in me would have left. There's a couple things black people do that I think are the best. When we think something's funny, we do one of three things. We either we laugh really loud and uncontrollably, or we'll hit something or hit someone, or we'll run. It's just a thing that we do. There's things that black people just do, and for me in particular, when I think something's incredibly funny, I run in a circle. I don't even know where it came from. Now, in the context of something dangerous, if I see something dangerous or if I see someone running, my immediate thought, I'm not thinking anything else. It's time for me to go. I need to leave. I must exit the premises as fast as I possibly can. So if I see a big old brown, shout out Black History Month, bear doing one of these, I'm out. And so I would have jeopardized everybody. And I'm glad that God didn't put me in that situation. Yeah. Hence why I can say with confidence, I'll fight Goliath any day, because if I hit him in the shin, he's going to have a hard time.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I hit him in the back of the kneecap, he's down, right?
Yeah.
Hit him in the stomach, he's done for. Then you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But a bear, I can't do that. I can't do that. So I just want to let you know that, that's my life. That's my life.
Oh my God, bro. I had no intentions of talking about bears at youth camps, but let's go. I think we actually did drive down and make all the kids go in, and everybody was mad.
Yeah, that's...
Like, we don't want to go in, we're fine. I'm like, nah, let's just go inside.
So
go
wild.
to your cabin.
Yeah, man. But hey, everyone's alive, everyone's good.
Yeah.
You know?
Nobody got eaten. Nobody got attacked.
Yeah, so 4 + 4, so incredible. But I think that's the thing. It's those kind of experiences give you confidence. Man, this is crazy. I was in London last year, and I met a guy. His name is Paul. Random dude. He probably works for a finance thing I don't know. We met on the train. I sat next to him. We talked for 2 hours.
Where were you headed?
I was going to this place called Milton Keynes, which is quite a ways outside of London.
And he just happened to be going in the same direction.
He was going home, yeah. So he lived there, and he
Okay.
probably worked in the city. And it was a super end of the day, and I overhear him talking about work and leadership, and how he didn't take a raise because he wanted to mentor someone because he believed in them. And I was like, that's kind of crazy. Okay. And so we just talked about it. It was really crazy because he wasn't a believer, but he had a lot of principles that we would use every day. So I just asked him, I was like, hey man, where do you get your confidence from? And a couple other questions, and the confidence one is what stuck out to me. He said, I look back and I realize that everything that I've done, I was able to do it. And because of consistency, I'm able to look at it and say, okay, I can now be confident that either this can happen again or I can do it in some way, shape, or form. And it gave me kind of like a roadmap for confidence. And this is maybe psychologically like, okay, God got me through fighting a lion. God got me through fighting a bear. I now have the confidence that God can do even more than what I've been through. So I know, who is this uncircumcised Philistine? You're nothing because of what God has brought me through. And I'm like, if I can look back at what I've already done that God has brought me through, I know that I know that I know. Plus the promises that he gives us, such as like your best days are in front of you.
Right.
I'm good, whatever it might be, whether that's me starting this mentoring or me doing Creators and Coffee on tour, or me trying to figure out how to do all this and be a pastor of some sort, and how one day at some point, like, I really want to lead a ministry. I have no actual idea how any of it's going to happen or how it's going to go. But man, I will look back at everything God has brought me through, every phase, every leader, every mentor, everything, and say, okay, if God can bring me through that, I can move forward. And it's just a part of, like, I think confidence is something that God has blessed me with, and faith. Those two things, I think God has for sure blessed me with. So, because I just be going for it. I have no idea, nothing. I don't even know. I barely knew where I was going to sleep until like 2 days ago. So, yeah, I think that it's such a fun, this is a fun journey. But it works out a faith muscle within me for sure.
Bro, I can relate to that so much. I feel like that confidence and humility are so much closer. I think I would have viewed them more as opposite ends of a magnet growing up. It's like, man, how can I be meek like Jesus or Paul or someone from Scripture? Yeah. And I think you're probably similar, being church kids who were like raised in the pew.
Dude, it messed me up.
Absolutely. And I would always kind of try to think, okay, do I need to project confidence here, or do I need to be more humble? And I wouldn't necessarily put those words to it, but kind of trying to find your footing as a young man. I think I can only speak for me, but I think maybe speak a little bit for us because we've been doing this for a while. But what I have found more lately is when I look at the stories of Scripture, and kind of to your point earlier, you take who it was written to, the original audience, and then you apply the principles, whether it be the story of David or it be the story of Joseph or Paul or Peter, and you start to kind of piecemeal why these stories were written and how it can apply to my life. I feel like most of what I found that's true of my life, if I am confident, it's because I know God's done it before. When I tried to start the business, dude, I knew it was going to work. I just knew for a fact. I had multiple friends. I was living in Los Angeles, and it didn't really make sense to use the $25,000 that I had worked my butt off to save to start a business when I could probably just go get a pretty decent paying job. But I knew for a fact it was going to work. I didn't really know how. I didn't know the why, kind of what we're talking about right now. When we're trying to start new initiatives, you're not really certain exactly how it's going to work, but you know why it's going to work, because my confidence is not just in my own abilities, and I don't necessarily have to project this humility like, how am I going to figure it out? But I look back at what he did last time. That moment when I was a youth pastor, when I first got married, when I didn't know how I was going to pay the bills, or even just the last few months or last few weeks, which we could talk about. Moments where I'm like, how am I going to make payroll? How is this going to work? If I don't close this client, oh my God. And I can get really anxious and really fearful, just like I think anybody would. But most of the time, if I'm honest with myself, when that happens, it's because I'm not realizing in that moment that I'm not in charge. I'm not the maker of my own destiny. And for me, I thought humility was more being a servant, and it is. I thought humility was more deference, and it is. But what I've realized is, for me personally, when I am humble and meek, it's recognizing that I'm just not in control.
Wow.
That I'm not enough.
Wow.
That I need Jesus. I remember growing up in church and people talk about Bible reading times and prayer times and church attendance, and all those things are wonderful, things you and I do.
Yeah.
I thought that was kind of what you're supposed to do and it betters your life. But now on the other side of having kids and career and change, I'm realizing I actually need those things for survival. Like, I'm not good enough.
Yeah.
Like, there's confidence in career, there's confidence in what he did before, but I keep on realizing over and over again, I am not enough to be the husband I need to be. I'm not enough to be the dad I need to be. I'm not enough to be the creative I need to be. I'm not enough to make a podcast this good. Clearly, I need Matt and a lot of other help.
Yeah.
And I'm just grateful to be across the table from another guy who just like, bro, we don't have this sorted out.
Dude.
Like, we need Jesus for survival. I don't read
Yes.
my Bible because it's cool or because I need morality. I need it because I need that guy.
I need it. Yeah.
I need that guy. And for me now, humility is like recognizing my confidence is in what he's already done and knowing he's going to do it again.
Yeah.
And in this moment, I can't even do it without him.
It's like this. It's a tightrope, because it's like, I know I'm not that guy, but I also know that I am that guy. And not in a
Dude, that's
boastful
Paul
way.
right there.
And yes. Did you know majority of Paul's like letters, everything he wrote, he started with, I, Paul, an apostle of God. And I'm like, who told you that? Ain't nobody tell you was an apostle. Ain't nobody ever used that word before. Who are you? He's like, God sent me. He never asked nobody's permission. There's not one moment in his like life after following God, he's like, hey, so can I? He was the unofficial like 13th disciple.
Yeah.
But there was no like, hey man, like he's the guy. He just was like, I'm just gonna,
Like, even the guy that replaced Judas, they cast lots for it, which is crazy.
yeah. We don't hear nothing about him. Like, he was official. He was officiated. That brother had a whole officiated moment.
Yeah.
Nah, dude, he ain't got no books. Paul is little, and it's like he can boast in God. It's a really beautiful art, and I think the tension is knowing that there's no one else that can do this, but there's absolutely someone else that can do this. If I say no, God will take the time, because time is not something that he worries about, to raise someone else up, even if it takes another 30 years to do what it is that he asked me to do. And this is actually something really terrible that happens in ministry. There's a lot of people that are doing what they're not supposed to be doing, which that I think that's pride, right?
Yeah, projecting yourself onto something that you weren't really made to do.
Yes. And God's like, man, they didn't do what I knew I needed them to do. So now I have to raise someone else up to do what I told you to do. Great.
Bro, that's the story of Scripture.
Yes.
Even, I love the story of Abraham. I always feel like I had an Abraham moment too, which is so fun. But when God calls him to leave the land of his father and mother, there's a lot of, what was his dad's name again? Do you remember?
Abraham's dad's name?
Yeah, was it Nahor or something like that?
You know, I read
Anybody
past that
remember?
part pretty fast. I don't.
Okay, but anyways, there's many theologians that would say this, so I'm not the first one, and I could be wrong. But he actually got up and left first to go towards Canaan, but then he stopped somewhere directionally before, and then he camped.
Are you kidding?
Yeah, so there's actually theologians who would agree that there's a pretty high probability, or at least a decent chance, that before Abraham was called, his father was called, but he didn't go all the way. He stopped and camped in a place that he saw was good. So by the time it was Abraham's turn, it's a clear representation. The father of our faith, the father of the Hebrew faith, which obviously is what, Christianity following Jesus is born from, being a little Christ. He was the second choice in a sense, which is kind of wild.
That's crazy. And that, it's passed down from generation to generation. So Isaac is the same thing. God gives Abraham a promise that he doesn't fulfill. Then he gives Isaac a promise that he doesn't fulfill. Then he gives Jacob a promise. You'll become a nation. My brother never saw that, It's Joseph. That's why he's he's basically the end of Genesis. Joseph actually faces the trauma of all of those things.
Yep.
And decides to make the right choice. And then he is the key. He's the linchpin that actually activates the promises that God gave his father, his father's father, and his father's father. And I think it's the coolest thing. And it's like, I think that could be us.
Bro, absolutely.
What is it that God gave to our families that just wasn't fully activated yet? It has I think it has a lot to do with what our purpose is. And most people are like, what am I supposed to do? Ask your dad. Ask your grandpa. What did God tell them that they never did? It's probably on you as well. And this is where generational curses, generational battles kind of come into play, because you got to fight through what they didn't make it through in order to get the promise that they were supposed to get. But it's a whole thing. Like, it's a really beautiful thing that I ended up writing a couple months ago. That I'm like,
What did you write it for?
I was preaching at a young adults camp in October, and I ended up writing a sermon on generational trauma. And it's kind of like my baby. I'm like, I love that message.
Okay, put a pin in that. I want to circle back in a second back to Joseph, kind of carrying on what you said. I want to go to Genesis 50:20, and I also want to relate that to Romans 8:28, and then back to what we were talking about with Paul. Kind of basically, he goes on his braggadocious, like, hey, I'm the Pharisee of Pharisees, but then he comes down to weakness. We'll come back to that. But have you ever thought about people who talk about reincarnation? I think people who talk about reincarnation outside of the realm of the faith in Jesus, it's kind of a sense of what we would read. I think a lot of what people would see as true spiritually outside of following Jesus is, in my opinion, because I believe Jesus is the only way.
Yeah.
I think it's borrowed from a spiritual truth that Jesus instilled through the New Covenant,
1000%.
through the New Testament. So I think generational curse, generational blessing, we're kind of fighting off in a sense, and there's way better ways to articulate it biblically, and looking at the real meaning of Greek and Hebrew and Aramaic and studying who it was written to.
Yeah.
But I think you and I get to stand on the shoulders of our Father, and there's a generational blessing that we should take the baton further than the generation before us, and the work that was not finished for them, we might get to finish. Even similarly, so my cousin, one of my best friends in the world, Judah, a lot of what my uncle Wendell, rest in peace, named after him, so thankful for it, what he had prayed for, he never saw happen, and Judah did with ease. And I think in a similar way, it's easy because you and I grew up watching him, and he's done so many beautiful things with and for Jesus. But I think it's a spiritual truth. I think it's a spiritual truth through the lens of Scripture that we have to, in a sense, break off things like alcoholism or depression or anxiety that comes from the generations before. But on the good side, we also get to take on so much. We stand on the shoulders of our parents in the way they raised us.
Yes, 1000%. That is the first form of discipleship. That, like, it's so full circle. Like, if I can figure out what that is and pass that on to you and allow you to stand on my shoulders and do greater things than I could have ever done, that is discipleship. Like, I'm very excited to disciple my children, to give them everything that God has promised me, and they could do it. I don't know what they're going to do.
Right.
But it's like, I have to disciple them.
Right.
And that's, dude, like, having small group, mentoring other people is just, to me, practice of being a dad, a father, because I'm like, I'm going to give you everything I possibly can, and I'm going to, like, please be better than me. And this is where humility kind of comes in. What if they do better things than me? Right now, every single person I mentioned that I was teaching are doing greater things than me. And I'm like, I don't want their shine. I don't want anything from them. I gave them everything I gave them so that they could succeed better than I ever could. And I gave them everything God told me. God told me I was going to do so many different things in the creative realm. And I was like, it's so selfish of me to not pass that on and allow other people to be able to do things like that. So I think that's so spot on. And God deals with blessings and curses. It's in Deuteronomy. I can't remember specifically where, but it's in Deuteronomy where he's like, yeah, this is real. I will deal with people that don't deal with things generationally. So it's a reality, and I take it super serious. Where, like, and again, this is all hinged upon my wholeness. Hey, I know what happened in my family. I know what, like, we're not good at. I have to take the time to address my trauma, and face it and deal with my defense mechanisms and rewire my brain. And that's really what the entire message was about with Joseph, is he had to do those things. And in order to fulfill the promise given to his generation of families. It was after Joseph, right, that Israel becomes a nation. After he died, the millions of his family, right? And then simultaneously, all the way up to Abraham, that you'll be a father. What is it? That you'll be a father,
Of
basically,
many nations.
of many nations. And it's like,
And in you, all the families of the earth will be blessed.
exactly. That was dependent on Joseph handling his trauma and everything that happened before him.
Bro, so in Genesis 50:20, that's exactly what I wanted to circle back to. He says, because his brothers come after Isaac dies, and now they're thinking, okay, Dad died. Now he's going to really let loose on us because
There's nothing.
we threw him in a pit and then sold him as a slave.
Yeah.
And then the story. If you haven't read it, you need to go read Genesis wherever it starts.
It's
maybe is it chapter
beautiful.
40? When does Joseph get introduced? Anybody know?
36.
36. Let's go, biblical scholar. Genesis.
If I'm wrong, then.
Whatever we can do to get George to laugh.
Give my Bible.
We got the notes on the side. But then it gets to Genesis 50, and they come to him. You know the story, but I think about it so much because he basically, as you mentioned, is the fruition of the promise to Abraham, which is the eventuality of Jesus coming.
Yes.
And they come, they're like, please don't kill us. Dad told us. They get one last manipulation in, which is hilarious. They actually say a bold-faced lie one more time as if that served them well.
Right. It's like, what the heck?
Like, hey, Dad told us to tell you right before he died. For some reason, he didn't tell you, but he told us to tell you.
That's a generational curse. Their father was a liar. He had to break it.
Yeah.
The reason why Joseph
Everywhere
is chosen.
Abraham went, he was lying that Sarah was not his wife.
It was in their blood. So if you don't handle something, right, within 2 years, any big
Why
or
2
little,
years? Why 2 years?
That's psychologically the how long it takes for something to become traumatic for you.
Wait,
So
hold up.
If
Where'd you get that? 'Cause
I
I love it.
I follow a lot of psychologists like on the internet, and I just be listening.
Okay, go back to what you're saying. If you don't,
So if something happens to you, and if you don't deal with it emotionally within 2 years, so you got 2 years to run. If you don't deal with it within 2 years, it becomes trauma. After that point, it now registers in your DNA. You start to reproduce the traumatic blood cells, brains, everything, and it now is in your DNA. If you have a child and you don't deal with that, it is now literally in their DNA. Lying, deceiving was a part of Jacob's DNA. The reason why all his sons did all that is because they did not put in the work to deal with that part of who they were. Joseph clearly had very many opportunities to lie in his entire story.
oh yeah,
And he never did, which is insane. Every time he didn't lie, he broke the curse. Every time he didn't lie, breaking the curse, right, is the biblical verbiage. Psychologically, neurologically, breaking the curse is just changing the brain path in your brain. And if you do it enough times, it dies.
well, you don't feed dies.
Exactly.
So wow, bro, this is fun.
This is
My
like,
wheels are turning.
This is like my
2 years.
This is my like, I'm gonna preach at a conference message. Like
And you
this is
should.
like, yeah.
And you should. He says to his brothers, it's okay. What you meant for evil, God has turned for good, that many would be saved.
Wow.
Which is a direct through line to Romans 8:28,
It's yeah.
where Paul writes, and we know that all things work together for good.
Wow.
And to our earlier point about humility and boastfulness, Paul has every reason in Jewish culture, that is a religious culture and system, to brag about his upbringing. And he goes on that dissertation. I don't remember which epistle it is. Do you remember?
No, I don't.
He has every reason to do so. And he says, no, but actually I'm going to brag. I think it is actually maybe 2 Corinthians
It could be.
11:12, because this is what I'm getting to. I'm going to brag about my weaknesses And then he goes on to say, hey, I had this thorn in my side. Theologians try to discover exactly what it is. The fact of the matter is we don't exactly know. But he asked Jesus 3 times to remove it, which is interesting. 3 times, 3, Trinity, amongst many other things.
Wow.
And Jesus says, no, for my grace is made perfect in your weakness. And I love what it says in the Passion Translation. I know it's a little bit controversial, Passion, but I love it. It speaks to me. At the end of that segment, he says, I'm going to boast about my weakness, for my weakness is a portal to God's strength.
Wow.
And that's the difference for guys like you and I. Not that we have arrived, not that we just have confidence in self, although I do think self-confidence is important.
Yeah.
And it's even directly connected to what we're talking about, like rewiring your brain. Neuroplasticity is also borrowed from Scripture. It's a scriptural truth.
1000%.
Be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Your mind is renewed through the Spirit of Jesus. When you accept Jesus, the Holy Spirit starts to work in you and your brain starts to change. And bro, I never heard what you just said before, and it's such a blessing to me because now I can say, okay, I'm just going to put 24 months on this, and I'm going to let Jesus do the work to rewire my brain and recognize my inadequacy and allow my inadequacy to every time. So for instance, this is just me. When I am working through, most of my pain these days is mental, because I sleep in a home with walls and heat when it's cold and AC when it's hot. I'm blessed.
Yeah.
Most of my pain, I have food on the table. It's like, oh, how am I going to do this? How am I going to do that? How am I going to please this person? That. I want to do a better job, and you've inspired me today to put a time frame on dealing with certain negative thoughts and cutting them now, because I got 3 babies and 1 on the way.
Yeah.
And allow neuroplasticity through the Spirit of Jesus to renew my mind, recognize that if this area of weakness is prevalent in my life, it should be a portal to God's strength, which all we can really do as followers of Jesus is just try my very best to just hand it to him in real time. God, I'm anxious. I'm worried about money. I'm worried about clients. I'm worried about this teammate. I'm worried about how I'm going to do this for my family, and just give it to him. And I think everything I've learned from Scripture kind of points to that being my only option anyway.
Yeah.
Just giving it to him, and ideally not allowing that to become something I pass on to my children.
Because it's like kids can see that.
Absolutely.
I knew when my mom was stressed. She never had to tell me. I just knew.
Bro, my kids sometimes, and it hurts my soul to even say it, but they'll be like, Dad's in a bad mood. And the irony is, I'll be like, what? I'm not in a bad mood. Or my wife will be like, ooh, Dad's stressed. I'm like, oh.
Yeah. And simultaneously, I can't tell you, I'm so pumped to be a dad, because I'm like,
You're going to be great.
I think about this all the time. I'm teaching them how to handle anger.
Right.
I'm teaching them how to handle themselves. How is Dad going to treat me now when he feels this way? Mm-hmm. Imagine your kid saying, even though I knew my dad was upset, he never treated me differently, and he always blessed me. Actually, it was kind of cool when he was mad, because I knew it was going to be good for me. I don't know. For example, yesterday, I almost got arrested.
Are you serious? You just drop it like that? What happened?
So I've been driving dirty. I've been riding dirty for a little bit. But so what happened was, I didn't know my license was suspended. I went to go get it fixed. It was expensive. So I was like, hey, can I put on a payment plan? They was like, yeah. They were like, you should be good. I was like, cool, I could drive. Great. I got stopped yesterday. They was like, you can't drive. I said, oh, for real? They said, okay, cool. And they was like, so it's either you have someone pick up you in your car and y'all drive, like, y'all figure that out, or we take your car and we got to put you in. I said, okay, God. Hey, shout out to Grace. So this is a new season for me. I left my parents when I was 16. I moved. I have other parents. I moved with my other family when I was 16. So I haven't been with this family since I was 16. So that's 13 years now, 14 years now. And so this is one of the first times in my life where I have an emergency. I can call my mom and she can be there. I called my mom and she was like, I'm on my way. Huh? I've been figuring things out my entire life. What do you mean you're on your way? She's like, I'm on my way. And then she was like, oh, you know what? Dad's home. Don't worry. We're going to get you. Dad will drive your car. You drive with me, and we're going to go home. I was like 45 minutes away from the house. And it was so healing. And because I don't even know where I'm going with this. Like, I started with arrested, but I wanted to say something else, but I'm going to just say this. That was so healing for me to see my parents be my parents, even as an adult. I was like, oh, y'all got my back? They were like, what do you mean? We've always had your back. I was like, well, I just lived in Vegas and I lived in Oklahoma, and you having my back meant a conversation, or you would sell me money or whatever the case may be. But I didn't want you to sell me money. I'm grown. Like, so it was just a really cool moment. And I had a conversation with my dad this morning. He took me to the airport. He was like, son, it was such a cool thing to see you say this and be vulnerable in that way. But I just want to let you know, I always got your back. And it was like, oh, wow. Like, I'm learning how to be a better dad from these small interactions. Mm-hmm. And it's something that I'm like super pumped on. And so every time I can possibly squeeze some kind of father thing, I'm like, write that down, because I'm going to pass that down. I'm going to pass down the good things.
Bro, I love it.
Yeah.
It's the most important job we'll ever have.
Wow.
Being a father.
To me, that's the coolest thing in the world.
So, ladies, if you think Ron is cute, if you would like to have this man's babies, oh, goodness.
Well, lock in.
Hey. Oh, my God. Dude, I love you so much, man. Thank you for coming out.
Thank you for having me.
We got a little bit more to do. We'll walk to get coffee. You drink coffee, right?
I do. I like coffee. And
George
I like matcha
doesn't
now.
drink coffee. I got to keep rubbing it. But
Put my business out there.
let's get matcha, bro. Let's get matcha.
You drink matcha?
Bro, listen.
It tastes like dirt.
No, I got your back. Yeah,
We're good.
I want to say something. I can't say it on camera. So yeah.
But before we close, I think it'd be awesome if you just look at the camera right here and encourage. Obviously, I think most of the people who would interact with radio would probably follow Jesus. Some wouldn't, but just talk to a creative, talk to an entrepreneur, maybe someone in the church, out the church, and give them some encouragement, because I think you have unique value to share, and we'll be honored if you just give them a minute.
Cool. To my friends that are a little anxious, can I let you know, you're probably the most creative person that you know. If your brain can create a situation to where you've imagined every bad scenario and you believe it wholeheartedly in your heart, don't you think that you can use your faith to do the exact opposite? You being anxious, right, screams that you're creative. Create the life that God has told you that you're going to have. And all you've got to do is utilize your anxiety backwards. And I think that that'll change your life, because what you think you believe, and what you believe comes to reality. So think it differently, believe it differently, and use your anxiety to your advantage. I hope it helps.
Beautiful. Love you so much, bro.
Love you, bro.
Thanks for being on the radio.